You might be wondering why I decided to call this web series Season 2 instead of coming up with another clever name. Well, the answer's obvious. I couldn't think of one. What do I look like, an idea factory? Hello everyone, it is Hunter from Gaming by Gamers and welcome back to web series Season 2, Episode 2. If you're new to the show, I'm on a journey to play and review every single Batman game. And on today's episode, we're going to be playing Batman for the NES, Batman for the Sega Genesis, and Batman for the Turbografx 16. So, let's jump right into Batman for the NES.
The game starts out with a well-animated scene of the Batmobile riding up to a building and Batman jumping out. Then we get into the gameplay, and what is with these games not giving you a second to breathe? This time, I was ready though. Well, this is Batman for the NES. Let's start with the graphics. Everything looks okay. Batman is a little too purple for my liking, but that's alright. They were working with what they had. The backgrounds are also dark, but overall well made. And the enemies are a little weird looking, but nothing too crazy. Controls are pretty good though. Moving is normal and precise. You use B to jump and A to attack. Pretty standard stuff for an NES game. If you press select though, you get to choose through a variety of weapons such as a batarang, a gun. That's weird. And I don't know what this thing is, but it destroys anything in its path. You can only use the weapons when you have ammo, and the ammo is all shared, so a batarang takes 1, the gun takes 2. And this thing takes 3. It's an interesting way to make you manage your ammo and choose what weapons to use strategically. You can gain more ammo by killing enemies and picking it up when it drops from them.
I loved this. Adding a level of strategy that made me really think about what was the best way to handle every encounter, that's fantastic. And then I learned how to cheese it.
So, when you move the enemies off screen, they disappear and respawn as soon as you bring them back into frame. I didn't do this a lot, but some of the bosses in this game feel straight up unbeatable without a ton of stored up gadgets, so I did what I had to do. It's actually known as one of the most difficult games in the NES library, so I don't feel too bad. Speaking of bosses, let's talk about how they're handled. You go through the stage, which is your classic platforming / action section, with normal enemies and a couple of mini bosses thrown in. Then at the end of each stage, you go into a single room and have to do a boss fight. The first boss is Killer Moth. You can't see their health, so that makes things a little more difficult and tense. If you die, and you will, you only reset to the beginning of the fight. You get 3 lives, and your health is represented by the boxes in the top left. The boss fights are actually pretty fair, if you play through it once and get an understanding of their fight patterns. Oh yeah, and don't use anything besides the batarang. This thing is so overpowered because it only uses 1 piece of ammo and you can get 2 hits with it. You're basically unstoppable at short range. So just use that and you're good. Once we beat him, we get another Batmobile cutscene and now we're in a new level. This one is more so about platforming rather than fighting, but there are a few enemies throughout the level. We have this flamethrower guy, who is supposed to be Heatwave, some robotic caterpillar, the elites from Halo, some jetpack guys. Wait!
I need a weapon.
Yeah, these are straight up the elites from Halo. I know this game came out in 1989, but I know an elite when I see one. There's really not much more to this game. It follows the plot of the movie, but very loosely. At the end, you fight the Joker and once again throw him off the cathedral, and that's game. This game was pretty difficult, but had a lot going for it. If you're into classic Nintendo difficult games, I would recommend this. Let's go with 5 energy swords out of 10.
Well, 6 out of 10 ain't bad, but hopefully the Genesis version will be a little better. This is also based on the 1989 movie, so let's see which one we have more fun in.
So now we're taking a look at Batman for the Sega Genesis. Let's start by testing out these controls. Whoops!
Oh, I hope that was a bad guy.
The first major upgrade you can see is the graphics. They really knocked it out of the park here. Batman especially looks great, and with all the shaded backgrounds, it gets high praise from me. For the controls, we have the classic move, jump, and punch, though we also have a batarang and a grappling hook. The batarang is your only weapon besides punching this time around, and you only get 5 per life, but there are a few extras scattered around the levels. They aren't as useful as they were in the last game, because they never come back around when you throw them. For normal enemies, it's fine, it only takes 1 hit to kill them anyways, but it would have been very useful in boss battles where an extra hit could have won you the fight.
Now, I'm not one to shy away from challenges in video games, but when the weapon is literally called the batarang, you kinda expect it to come back to you.
So I would save those for a defensive move, like if they're charging at you or if they're just low on health. Oh yeah, that's one of the big changes with this and the NES version. They have health bars for the bosses now. It's pretty standard for games nowadays to have this, and I appreciate it, so I'm glad they decided to include it. It follows the same pattern as the NES game with how it handles the boss battles. At the end of every action/platforming level, there's a boss fight. They didn't include any of the same characters though. The ones they put in are really weird. There's this random guy with boxing gloves, and then the next boss you face is Jack before he becomes the Joker. Then we're fighting this beefed up guy with a tank top, boombox, and a pedo stash. Well, the Joker and Vicky are watching us from above.
This is weird. I'm just gonna keep my hand over this bottle.
Now after that, we're fighting the mech tank that looks straight out of Contra. As you can see, it's an odd spread. It does bring me into the next thing I want to talk about though, that being the vehicles. The NES version didn't have them, but Batman for the Commodore 64 did. It's hard to compare this to the C64 game because it's two completely different styles. The Commodore 64 version was third-person 3D driving, while the Genesis version is a bird's eye view with 2D action section. So there's no real way to compare them. I did have fun driving around in this though. Your main objective is to take out the Joker's cars and make it to the boss battle alive. These purple cars aren't attacking me, but my score goes up when I kill them, so I was taking them out anyways.
Ah, jeez. Watch out if you own a purple car in Gotham. Batman might just kill your family now and ask questions later.
As you get further into the level, there are multiple enemies with different attacks that you have to memorize and dodge to make it out alive. I will say that, while annoying, at least when you die, there is a really cool animation of the Batmobile catching fire. When you're not dying, you get normal bullets to shoot with, but now instead of boomerangs, you get heat-seeking missiles. These are extremely powerful, so save these for the boss battle because it can knock it down in just a few hits. The Batwing is pretty similar to the Batmobile, so I don't have much to say about it besides, no matter what the context, it's just cool to be piloting the Batwing. There isn't really a lot left to the game after this. We fight through a level or two, and the Joker gets knocked off the edge of the cathedral again, and that's game. This was a pretty standard action game, but it surprised me with how well the graphics looked in the 1990s. I had fun playing through it, and I'm gonna be giving Batman for the Sega Genesis 6 Batmobiles out of 10.
Am I gonna be cursed for the rest of my life to watch Joker fall off that damn cathedral over and over again? Oh, God, it's seen it enough. Let's hope that our next game, Batman for the Turbografx 16, doesn't include it.
This game was actually only released in Japan, but here at GBG, we have a way of getting our hands on things. They say that first impressions are important. Well, when I first loaded up this game, I didn't really know what I was looking at. My first thought was, oh, it's like a stealth game, maybe akin to the Metal Gear series? As I started to play, I quickly came to the realization this was not the case. No, not at all. Something was so familiar about this, yet so foreign. What was this game? What makes it seem so familiar?
This is just a wacky-ass version of Pac-Man.
I couldn't believe it either. Pac-Man. Listen, Japan, you've done some weird shit before, but who was even asking for this? Alright, let's just continue with the review and try to forget about this Pac-Man comparison. The main objective is to go around and pick up poison or acid. Each stage has a certain amount that you have to grab. If you get touched by one of the enemies, you die, but you can stun and kill them by hitting them with a batarang and then touching them. They do respawn after about 10 seconds, but it gives you time to get to where you need to go. It isn't a very complex game, just pick up the vials and you beat the stage. But notice how I've been saying stage. That's because the levels in these games feel endless. It took me over 40 minutes to beat just the first level, and every time I thought it was over, there was no way there could be any more stages, I saw this screen. There are 11 stages in the first level.
Now I know there is no difference between a level and a stage, but my dumb stupid lizard brain wants progression. It wants to feel like I'm going somewhere. And with this game, I just feel like I'm walking on a treadmill.
When you finally do get to the next level, you find yourself in a museum, and now instead of picking up vials of acid, you're cleaning graffiti off of paintings.
Did Batman catch a misdemeanor and has to do 10 hours of community service? I mean, how did we go from acid to this?
The gameplay is basically the same, but there are different enemies that have different attacks. It switches things up a bit, but not enough to really leave an impression. It does have a new mechanic where you go to an up arrow and it teleports you to a different part of the map.
I said it was new. I never said it was good.
And that's just about all I have to say about this game. Oh, and of course we do see Joker falling off the building at the end of the game. Yeah, that's not getting tedious at all. I really don't know what to give this thing. I mean, what do you rate a game that you would find on a TI-84 calculator? Let's just call it a day and give it a 3 out of 10 Waka Wakas.
Alright, another 3 down. Thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell right next to the subscribe button to be notified when the next episode releases.